Hello and welcome to another edition of the Door 14 Hockey Podcast. I'm your host Marty alongside Aaron.
Hey, everybody.
Hello. I think now, correct me if I am wrong, but I think we were talking about this week. I think in the 10 years that we have been doing this podcast, 10 years, this is the first time that it's just been me and you.
I believe so. I remember doing a podcast just with John in his stepdad's house and Tommy's house randomly at the very start, huddled around a couple of snowballs, the mics. But I think it's just us for the first time. Now, to be fair, for anyone that's watching, you might see a blurry figure hanging around in the background. It's technically not just us. My son has decided that he is key to the success of today's podcast, and is hanging out in the sofa behind me.
Yeah, it's good to see him there. I can see him rocking his Belfast Giants jersey as well. But yes, he's on the panel tonight. Maybe he'll step in and put a voice of reason at some point later on in the show. As such, we are a depleted crew again this week. I know last week it was me and Dave, and this week it is me and Aaron. John is out still on paternity leave. He will be back, he reassures us, maybe in the next podcast in 2 weeks' time. And Dave is away off to Nashville. He flew off, I believe, today. Hopefully he got out. You probably
Hopefully with that wind. Yeah,
I was just about to hear for anybody who's watching the podcast, and hopefully it doesn't cut out on YouTube, but anybody who's listening as usual to our podcast as usual on a Friday or whatever day you decide to listen to our podcast, if you hear a lot of wind in the background, we apologize, but there's nothing we can do about Mother Nature. It is a very, very, very.
Is there a name for this storm? Is it a storm? Does it have a name?
I didn't see a name for this one, so I don't know if it's officially a storm, but it's pretty windy. So yes, hopefully our electric and our internet stuff stays connected. As you will see, for anybody watching, we have a nice Halloween theme going on here in our background.
Nice.
I think it's a nice little touch. And we have a few little Halloween bits and pieces in terms of jerseys later on in period 3.
And did I see a fancy Halloween introduction as well?
There was a fancy Halloween introduction with our Halloween logo that I designed for this week. So yeah, it's a bit of orange theme going on too. So yeah, although I know you did message you were going to wear a nice Steelers jersey today for your Halloween costume.
Yes, might as well. Do you know what? We joked about the Steelers. I could have just worn a Flyers jersey, to be fair.
You could have. It's harsh over there. And I've got to try to put on at least some kind of themed jersey. I've got a nice Harry Potter one on here, which I wore the last night.
Ask what the jersey was.
Yeah, it's a Harry Potter one. I wore it the last night's Halloween game last night, which was in no way Halloweeny in any way, shape, or form. I don't even think I heard like Backstreet Boys or Ghostbusters or even Monster Mash even once played, so I'm a bit disappointed.
Not once.
There is a few. I think there's only one Halloween jerseys to look at tonight, but we'll look at that later on. Aaron, let's get into our podcast and start the way we always do. So let's just stuck into period 1 and we'll run through the standings currently in the Elite Ice Hockey League. Okay, period 1 is a roundup of news stories from here in the UK. Very, very, very short one tonight because there's only one real story to talk about after we run through the current standings. I know, Aaron, you have been kind of away and you've been doing kind of a lot of stuff, so you've missed quite a bit.
Yeah, I've been kind of similar to Dave, where he's off to Nashville this week. I was away with work in New York and London for the last 2-3 weeks, so I actually haven't seen that much. So I'm looking forward to this, but for you could tell me what's going on, because it feels like there's a lot of strange things happening, I guess, in the league.
Yeah. No, we'll run through it. There has been, since our last podcast 2 weeks ago, everything has changed yet again. But what we should note from the very start is those teams, and we'll come to that in a few seconds, are still holding their own, and that is Manchester and Glasgow. We're going to come to that. So starting off at the top of the league, the Sheffield Steelers are currently sitting top with 6 games played and 9 points. Nottingham Panthers are currently sitting in second, 6 games played and 9 points also. And Cardiff Devils are on the same 6 games played, 9 points, but are in third. They're all divided depending on goal differences. Manchester Storm have moved down to 4th place. They have played 5 games and they're on 8 points, but again, they've only played 5 games and they've still got a game in hand over the top 3, which is very interesting when you see that it's Manchester. And I mean, no offense to that whatsoever. Glasgow Clan are currently sitting in 5th, still holding strong, 7 games played and 8 points. They have played 1 extra game, but hopefully they're continuing their form there. Belfast Giants are still down in 6th place, having played 4 games, least games of most teams, and they have 6 points. The Guildford Flames are sitting in 7th with 6 games played, 6 points. The Coventry Blaze are in 8th, 5 games played, 4 points. Dundee are 9th, 5 games played, 1 point, and the Fife Flyers still struggling on yet another season, 6 points and 6 games played, and they still have not been able to get a point in the league. Tough going for the Fife Flyers. Aaron, as you were saying, Sheffield Steelers have moved up into that first spot, followed quite closely by the Nottingham Panthers. Quite strong over the last couple of weeks, especially over the last 2-3 weeks. One of the things that has been very notable that we've noticed, I think is quite a telling thing so far this season, is a lot of shutout losses, shutout wins, a lot of overtime losses, a lot of overtime wins, and that's both in the league and the cup. And Nottingham have been holding their own when it comes to shutouts as well. So very, very strong performances so far at the top of the league. In terms of the bottom end, as I said, Fife are struggling, followed by Dundee are having a better performance in the cup, and we're going to come to that in a few minutes. But they just can't really seem to string together the wins that they need for league competition. And Belfast kind of holding up the middle there, and Guildford both kind of struggling on. Belfast with a good dominant performance last night here in the SSE Arena in Belfast, having beaten the Cardiff Devils 3-1, I believe was the final score last night. And a very, very, very good performance from Belfast, following a disappointing loss against the Guildford Flames at the weekend. Anything there that's jumping out at you in terms of teams that you weren't expecting to be where they are?
No, well, I guess it's, listen, the tail tinted glasses. We would never want to see the Giants down where they are at the moment. I will have and the reason why I was asking about what's going on, I keep seeing on the Facebook forum, I see Gav kind of like putting out posts every so often, essentially going, like, calling the line. Everyone's like, it's okay, it's all right, it's fine, don't worry, we're gonna get through it. So I actually really appreciate those messages from Gav, because he kind of keeps everyone in check there. And he shared that video on ITV earlier as well, calling out the game against Cardiff. So that's going well. The game that I guess one of the things you were talking about there, we were talking about the top 3 teams, Sheffield, Nottingham, and Cardiff. They've all got the same amount of points. The reason that Cardiff are third is because of the overtime wins rather than straight up wins, right?
It'll be based on a mix of overtime wins. Yeah, that's why they put them down in that third spot. But also, if you look at the goal difference and the goals for and the goals against, the goal difference is the thing that makes the difference then as well. So the Cardiff Devils are currently on 16 goals and Nottingham on 23 goals for. But as you would say, the big difference, even if they were on the same goals, like as they were both on 23, the difference would be that they've lost 1 game. They won 1 in overtime, so that would be the difference maker. Yeah, 100%. And obviously Sheffield sitting top, clearly. The one thing we should note about obviously Belfast is they have played the least games so far in the league. So they have played 4 games, and 6 points out of those 4 games. They're 2 games behind Sheffield and Nottingham, obviously. If they were to win their games in hand, and again, we talk about games in hand and they're not guaranteed points, but if they won their 2 games in hand, that would put them up into 10 points, 1 point ahead of the Sheffield Steelers. But again, we don't talk about, we can't really surmise, it's not solid points that are in the bag yet. I think the one thing that you were alluding to, and I think that's a good way to switch over, I forgot to add on our graphic. You think I'm new to this? We have our league standings there with our new graphic. I apologize to put this up. I meant to put it up so that people could see the graphic. But that was a really quick one, because we're going to move on to the next one, which is the Challenge Cup standings. The Challenge Cup standings, just because we're talking about them there. The Belfast, I think what you were talking about in relation to the kind of stuff that was being put out on, especially among the fan forums and where fans were kind of getting a bit frustrated, was around the Challenge Cup performances. The Challenge Cup so far, and I said this to Dave in our last podcast 2 weeks ago, it felt like when we were going to watch the Fife game last week, it felt like it was the 500th Fife game we've been watching, just because it just seems to be we're just constantly in this rotation of just playing the Scottish teams. So the fact that we played Guildford and we played Cardiff in the last week or so has been slightly refreshing, because it's non-Scottish teams. What I should say
John
is
was alluding to that in one of the podcasts, right? It's not really until you start playing these other teams from across the league rather than just the Scottish teams, you start to get a feel for the team.
Yeah, correct. John always talks about the fact that sometimes this early start to the season, when you have the Challenge Cup and we're playing constantly against the Scottish teams, it feels like you're in like almost like a never ending cycle of playing, not being able to develop your style of play against
Yeah.
other teams, because you're kind of playing against the teams you're always playing against. We know that whenever you go up against teams like Cardiff, Sheffield, Nottingham's, even Guildford's, the physicality changes, the pace changes, everything about it changes. So the Giants need to kind of get that bit of experience under their belt too. So it is early days, and I suppose what Gav is alluding to is the fact that when it comes to the Challenge Cup, there was a consistent just like struggle for the Giants to successfully convert a win. So they were constantly getting to overtime and not converting that extra point, so they're only taking 1 point away from those games. So had either overtime losses or had 3 overtime losses in total, which is not a great start. And if we look at Group B first before we go to Group A, Group B is still open. It's still games to be played in Group B in terms of where the final standings are going to be. Currently, as we're looking at it, the Belfast Giants are sitting top with 11 games played and 15 points. However, Dundee are in second place in that elimination game place, but they've only played 9 games and they have 13 points out of those 9 games. So they still have 3 games to play, and Belfast has 1 game to play. Now, I do know that the Belfast game is against Dundee. So the last game in the group stage is against Dundee. So they could take that 2 points and move up to 17. However, Dundee has 3 games and it's very, 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 very tight at the top there. Glasgow also have 3 games too. They've got 9 games played and 10 points, and Fife, unfortunately, have 11 games and 8 points and have completely knocked themselves out of any potential for moving on in the competition. Switching over to...
It's not a locked in yet that the Giants and Dundee are through, right?
No, it's not. Where the final placing is going to be is definitely locked in. Let's have a quick look. If we look at Glasgow, and if Glasgow won their next 3 games, that would take them to 16 points. And if Belfast lost that game against Dundee, straight up, I mean, yeah, it would be take them down into the underneath. Yeah, so it's still open. I mean, 3 teams are still in competition, and yeah, it is an interesting start to the Challenge Cup for Group B. Group A is a bit more crystal clear, and it's kind of already kind of finished off and done. The Sheffield Steelers have cemented their place at top of the table in Group A with 10 games played. Now, remember, they do play 1 or 2 games less than Group B. Group B plays 12 games, and Group A plays 10 games, just because 6 teams against 4 teams, and because it's the Challenge Cup, and it makes sense. Sheffield Steelers have played 10 games and have 15 points from the 10 games. Coventry Blaze have also secured their place into the next round, 10 games played and 13 points. Third place, which is the elimination game, is currently held by the Nottingham Panthers, and they have played 10 games and they're on 12 points. However, as someone pointed out to me on TikTok this week, it's an interesting one because what we have to look at is that the Cardiff Devils are sitting fourth with 1 game still to play. Now, if they win that game, they will equal 12 points as well. Now the difference will be that they'll have the same number of wins, same number of overtime wins, and the same number of losses. So it will come down to goals for. So Cardiff would need to win the game, but also score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goals roughly, if my calculations are correct, in order to get that elimination game. So it's a big ask for Cardiff, but it could happen. They are playing against the Guildford Flames, and I'm not saying Guildford aren't going to be strong against the Cardiff Devils, but it'll be interesting to see how that game pans out, because that could.
So Cardiff could get into that elimination spot.
Could do if they win the game against Guildford, and they have to win 6. I think it's by 6 goals. I think definitely. Let me see, 20, 29, 30, 31, 32.
A big ask.
Goals, yeah. So it's a big ask, but still a possibility. So that is still open. That elimination game is still open in Group A. So that's how the Challenge Cup is currently shaken out. Aaron, let's move on to the first story, shall we? And the first story and only story for this period is the just push that. The first story is, what is going on here? Sorry, bear with me.
I don't know about you, but my window nearly just came in there with the wind. That was fun.
The first story and only story for this period is the game, the Challenge Cup game, actually the last Challenge Cup game of Sheffield versus the Manchester Storm, which was held this past weekend, was called after 2 periods. But because 2 periods had been played under Elite League rules and regulations, the abandoned game after 2 periods means that the scoreline is the result stands as it was. So effectively, the Sheffield Steelers won after 2 periods of play, winning 2-1 in Manchester. Now, the reason for the cancellation of the abandonment, I should say, of the game after 2 periods was due to ice issues at Planet Ice in Altrincham. After an hour and 45 minutes of attempting to repair the ice, and that's right. So an hour and 45 minutes, they attempted to try and repair the ice. So fans in the arena were sitting at the end of the second period for an hour and 45 minutes for those who stayed, trying to wait to see if the game would restart. Ring staff did inform the league that it would not be possible to make the ice surface playable within a reasonable time frame in order to complete the game, and the game was therefore abandoned. Now, I have been trying my best to get some stats and some statistics and information on abandonment of Elite League games, and I can only, so someone can correct me, I'm sure there's statisticians out there who can do a way better job than I can only find potentially this is maybe the 6th occurrence of an abandoned game in the 22 years of Elite League play. I think this is, and I think one of the other abandoned games was actually a Manchester game as well. And it might have been a Manchester versus Sheffield game too. But yeah, it was really hard to come across the information I was looking for. And it just seems to be the story of my life at the moment, trying to find any historical data of the Elite League. But yeah, so I think this is maybe only the 5th time. As a result, sorry, go ahead.
And so it was called off.
Yep.
And based on what was the score at the end of the second period?
The score at the end of the second period was 2-1 to the Sheffield Steelers.
Sheffield Steelers.
So yeah, the Steelers win and took those points then for the Challenge Cup, which was the last game of the Challenge Cup. But I think they'd already secured anyway their spot before that came to this final scoreline anyway.
Here's a question: when you were tweeting about this, not tweeting, you were messaging this in the WhatsApp group. I appreciate that it goes based on the scoreline. But it's strange that surely is there no penalty for, in this case, like the likes of Manchester, for not keeping their pad and their rink up to scratch? Like if it had gone the other way, and let's say it was a draw, what would happen there?
I mean, if it was a draw, what would potentially be what would happen at that point if it was a draw and it was sitting at 2-2, for example, at the end of that second period? That is a really good question. What has happened in the past maybe has been that they will maybe play the remaining minutes at another game where they'll look at maybe making the first period of a league game double up as a Challenge Cup and League. I think they did that once, if I remember correctly, and I think that was maybe the Belfast Giants game. Now, again, my mind, if I had Dave here, Dave would be able to be like, "Yep, you're right." It was them. He's very quick at it and he knows. But I have a funny feeling that there was a game in Belfast where something like that happened, where he played either the start of the game, and I to kind of finish off the last game, because it was a double header weekend, and I think they played the first part of that game the next night, and the points then for that game from the previous night then were done in the first few minutes of the next night. But this would be a bigger one because it's a full period of play, so it wouldn't be like they could add on an additional period the next time they faced off against each other. So that's a very interesting question, what would have happened at that point. But to come to your question in terms of, is there a kind of almost like a reprimand or like some kind of thing that from the league to the Storm for the reason, for the fact that the game was abandoned for not keeping up with the rink? I guess in the instance of the fact that they can clearly say that their ice plant potentially failed and there's a mechanical problem with their ice plant, it's maybe just out of their control. I mean, ice plants fail, and although you could do maintenance as much as you can, they do fail. We've had issues in the past.
I guess the reason why I was thinking, I thought this was like the second story of a Planet Ice plant failing in weeks.
I mean, Planet Ice has, if I don't know if Anthony's watching tonight, but he'll tell you himself, Planet Ice is notoriously known for just poor upkeep of their rinks. We've seen just how long it has taken for the Basingstoke Bison to get back up and running there in Basingstoke, and the amount of just trouble they've had between starting our games being scheduled and then having to be rescheduled because just failure to kind of finish the stuff that they need to do and getting things ready in time. So it's it's Planet Ice. You know, they're not great. As a result of the abandonment, though, the club Manchester did put out a statement, just to kind of make sure that they made sure that they were kind of acknowledging the fact that it wasn't a great way for the game to end, but also it was a very frustrating night. So they did put a statement that basically just said, "We completely understand and share everyone's frustration after last night's game. Nobody wanted that outcome, least of all our players, staff, and volunteers who worked tirelessly to deliver the best possible game night experience. The situation was unfortunately out of our control, but we recognize that you spend your hard-earned money to watch and enjoy the sport you love. It's incredibly frustrating when we can't provide that, and we feel the disappointment just as much as you do. We're working closely with Planet Ice to find a quick and fair solution to make sure we do right by everyone who came out to support, both our beloved Storm fans and those who travelled from Sheffield. We sincerely apologise for the cancellation, truly appreciate your patience, loyalty and support, and the Storm will continue doing everything possible to improve our game nights. That's our focus moving forward." So Aaron, I suppose the question I have from that to you would be, obviously this is the club saying, it's not right. We're working on Planet Ice to find out what the solution is going to be in order to kind of, for our fans who turned up on the night. So I suppose the question for me would be, what would you expect? Like, so you as a fan, if you were sitting in there, you you hung around for an extra hour and 45 minutes. Some will maybe say, why did you hang around for that long? But anyway, you stayed around because you wanted to see the game restart. What would you expect a club like Manchester to do in this situation to make things right for the fans? Like, would you think refund, credit? What do you think would be a fair deal?
I think credit would probably be and it would make more sense for the organization to do a credit rather than a refund. With a credit, it means that they're getting back into another game, they're getting that experience, and they're getting them through the door to maybe purchase some food and some merch, rather than it's just getting them back into the game is what I think they should be doing. Do you think they should be doing a full refund rather than credit?
I think I would agree with you. I don't think we know that these smaller rink teams, and again that's not maybe doing derogatory. They're on a smaller rink, and we know for a fact that teams like Manchester, Fife, Dundee, those types of teams, they live or die based on the numbers who come through the doors, and they get money, the money that they make from people coming in. Games like this where they would have to maybe refund a full arena or full rink, as it was pretty much practically a sellout over there. I think in Manchester that night, it was a really, really packed crowd. To refund that amount of money to fans, it would be a big hit in the pocket for Manchester. And I think you're right. I think something along the lines of maybe a credit note for a drink or something in the arena or the rink the next time they're there, or even like I think I seen today or yesterday, I think they made a mention that anybody who had purchased the webcast had got a refund credit note for the next webcast if they wanted to go back and watch the next webcast that was there, and they got a credit note refunded to them, which is good. So something along those lines, maybe where the fans who are there, maybe who could get a credit note for that type of thing, where they could maybe use it in the future if they can't make a game, they could watch it online or something. I don't know.
Yeah, because it maybe I'm being too nice, but if I was there, you got 2 periods out of it. Is it a case of that's good, move on, or should it be a full refund? Maybe only 50%, 50% credit for get a ticket half price. Maybe I'm being too kind of going, sure, accidents happen. I'll come. No,
I mean, game. I think I'd be like you. I think I've got the same mentality as you. I kind of think they tried their best. The fact that they tried for an hour and 45 minutes. Now, I don't know if I would have hung around for an hour and 45 minutes, but they tried their hardest to try and make sure that to try and restart the game. So therefore, you can't take that away from them. They did try their best to try and get the game restarted, so you have to give them that. But I think if you're a fan and you understand just the sheer level of, as I said, like how important that is to the team, and to make sure the team runs and is competitive, and making sure that they have as much money as they can in their pocket. And I know it's kind of hard sometimes, especially in this day and age where where money is tight and everything else. I think a lot of people, especially hardcore fans who've been going for years and years and diehards, will probably be like, you know what, that's fine, I understand that, and I'll accept that the fact that we'll just move on from this point. But some kind of gesture would be nice, as you say.
But you're off for the next game, or as you say, a stream.
Yeah, something. That's it. That's the only story I have for this period. As I say,
I appreciate that you've done all the research and the for this as normal. Like, why break a habit of a lifetime. But I'm like, one story? That's crazy.
One story. I know there was two DOPS announcements, but they were just so far back, like 2 weeks ago, that it was just no point going through them, to be honest. There was I think it was two. They're both one game bans, and they've been played already. Those games have both been played, and they've basically served their ban that one game. So I just felt, there's no point really bringing it up. We'll just move on. So with that, that brings us into period 2 of hockey.
Welcome to period 2 of hockey, where we talk about hockey from all around the world, international hockey. Essentially, in this period, I think we're really just talking about NHL with a little bit of Team GB. There's a little bit of a hint. But before that, we do have our NHL standings. So let's go through that. Look at that beautiful slide. If anyone can read that.
I'm going to be fully transparent. I had all these big, massive intentions to have. So the graphics, for anybody who's watching the podcast, watching the show, the graphic you've seen for the Challenge Cup and the league for the Elite League, those nice green graphics that I use on our TikTok videos, I have 2 of them made up for both the Western and Western and Eastern conferences, and I just haven't got around to actually adding in the team logos and names and stuff. So I had intentions to do it for tonight. Time just got away from me, so you're getting
those graphics that you've been doing at the minute, man, on the socials are absolutely amazing. But let's go through the stats at the moment. So on the Eastern Conference, for the Atlantic side, you've got top position there by Montreal with 11 games played with 16 points, followed by Red Wings with 10 games and 14 points, followed by Florida Panthers with 11 games played and 11 points. Moving on to Metropolitan, you've got the New Jersey Devils with 10 games played and 16 points, followed by the Pittsburgh Penguins with 11 games played and 16 points, and then followed by the Hurricanes with 9 games played and 12 points, followed up with a wild card there with the Washington Capitals with 10 games played and 12 points, and the Blue Jackets with 10 games played and 12 points as well. It's very close with the Philadelphia Flyers. I'm just going to mention them there. I appreciate that they're not in the wild card, but they are just a smidge off the wild card there with 9 games played and 11 points. So there's always hope. There's always hope.
There's always hope.
Moving on to the Western, we have Utah Mammoth. Look at that. I know. Straight off the bat, Utah Mammoths, Tusky, as they call them, 11 games played and 16 points, followed by the Colorado Avalanche with 11 games played and 16 points, very similar. And then Winnipeg Jets with 10 games played and 14 points. Going over to Pacific, you've got the Vegas Golden Knights, 10 games played, 15 points. The Seattle Kraken with 10 games played and 13 points. And the LA Kings at 11 games played and 13 points. So it's all fairly close around here. Followed with the wild card there, you've got Dallas Stars, 10 games played, 13 points, with the Chicago Blackhawks there with 10 games played and 12 points. It's all fairly close. I think it's far too early to do any big calls on any of that. What do you reckon, Marty?
I mean, me and Dave were talking about this last week. Obviously, we are only in 11 games deep for most teams. And I mean, it's very, very, very early days. We talk about these things like the wild card spots and stuff, and it's just like, it's to think how far forward we're talking about when those wild card spots matter when we're talking, you're talking March, April, May time. March and April time, not May, because it's May. It already started. But it's an interesting one. I think what is interesting to take a look at is the fact that, you do have some names there who in previous seasons we were looking at and going, they've been struggling and you haven't been seeing them in those top end areas. I think one of the big refreshing things to look at is the Atlantic Division. For me, the Atlantic Division normally, historically, for the last number of years, I feel like whenever we've been running through these standings over the last number of years of the podcast, I just feel like I'm always like, in first place, the Boston Bruins are sitting with blah, blah, blah games played and 10 points. The Toronto Maple Leafs are in second with blah, blah, blah games played and 3 points. And then we have like, and then I'm usually like following up with like someone, in there, maybe, kind of that third spot usually changes quite a bit sometimes. But the fact that we have the Montreal Canadiens, the Detroit Red Wings, and the Florida Panthers sitting is just like, okay, right. Florida Panthers not so surprising. Obviously, we know they've been pretty good in the last couple of seasons with the Stanley Cup and everything else. So we can't take that away because we know they've been pretty accurate. Metropolitan Division, same. The Jersey Devils have played well last season under coach Sheldon Keefe. And we also have the Pittsburgh Penguins who've moved into second place, which again is an interesting one. Well, I should note, I know you mentioned the Philadelphia Flyers already, but I should note, obviously, Toronto are sitting in 5th spot in the wild card area. 11 games played and 11 points. But again, as you said, Aaron, if we look at that and we look at the fact that they've played 11 games, 11 points, they're on a -4 differential and goals for 38. I mean, if you look at the Florida Panthers, who are sitting in 3rd place in the Atlantic Division, I mean, they're 11 games played and 11 points, and they're -4 as well. And their goal difference is 20. So again, it's very, very tight. Toronto could easily move into that spot at any point. So early days.
But what is going on with you're talking about, like you mentioned there, usually in the Atlantic Division, you've got the Boston Bruins right at the top there. Ninth.
Boston, I mean, Boston over the obviously not being a specific Boston fan, but but from seeing everything in terms of the news stories that were coming out in Boston over the summer and especially during the transfer market and stuff, they've went through a massive change this offseason between offloading a number of players for salary cap reasons. One of the big ones, Brad Marchand moving down to Florida. And that was a massive one. That's a big change to them as well. I just think they're in a rebuild potentially, but I don't know if it's actually being mentioned as a rebuild in inverted commas. But yeah, they're definitely struggling. Definitely not the performing team that they've been over the last number of years.
I know we said it in a previous podcast. I think it's down to I bought a Boston Bruins top in Primark very recently. It's me. I am the NHL scud. If you want me to put down any other team in the NHL, let me know who they are. Give me a tweet, and I will buy one of their jerseys, and they will fall apart.
Yeah, as Dave mentioned, I should mention before I move on to the just a couple of comments I had for the Western side. As Dave mentioned, the Toronto Maple Leafs are maybe just slightly getting away with the fact that they're kind of having a wee bit of a slump or having a bit of difficulties initially to start, because I think at the moment they're the third most important team in Toronto after I think the MLB team and can't remember what was the other one, basketball, I think. I think both they were going through maybe like playoff type style stuff. I don't know anything about either of those sports, so I could be completely wrong. But I think they're like in like potentially like World Series type stuff. I don't know. I have no clue. Someone who knows something about baseball can maybe correct me. Sports. Yeah, I have no clue.
And Dave is, I know because we're talking about international hockey here, Dave is going to see the Nashville Predators this week, isn't he?
He is on Saturday. He is going to the Nashville game on Saturday in Smashville, which I know John was very upset about because Dave's getting there before he is.
Calgary Games, right?
Yeah, I think that's what he said. Calgary, was either Calgary or I think it was. Yeah, I think it was actually. Yeah, and I think he did promise to bring John back a cup or something in order to kind of smooth things over a wee bit, but we'll see. There we go. Thank you. Anthony has joined us. Fountain of knowledge there. He has let me know that, yes, in fact, the Blue Jays are literally one game away from winning the World Series. Baseball. So there you go. I was writing something. There we go. Just before we move on, Aaron, to the stories, if that's okay, just kind of quickly just finish off with the standings. The one thing, as you were saying, and I think you kind of, whenever you were reading it out initially, you went Utah Mammoth. Yeah, I mean, what a start for them under a new name and under a new brand and everything else. Obviously, they were here last season as their first season as Utah, but they weren't the Utah Mammoth. But yeah, that's basically a jump up of performance and definitely a step up. But again, early days. But positives. Let's look at the positives.
Yep, let's see it keep going on that way with them.
Yep.
Okay.
If it's okay with you,
go for it.
Start into the first of our stories, and let's have a quick look from the kind of positive look to a more serious headline which came out of the Washington camp this week. And this is a story, quite a serious story, where of assistant coach Mitch Love has been fired following the conclusion of an investigation by the NHL into his personal conduct. Here's what we do know. The investigation began several months ago after the league received a letter outlining allegations. Love was put on leave in September. We should note that this is allegations of domestic violence. On October the 26th, the NHL announced Love is suspended for the entire 2025-2026 season for conduct detrimental to the league, and that was put in inverted commas. The Capitals responded immediately by terminating the contract of Love. The allegations details do remain private. The league and team haven't disclosed specifics, but we have been led to believe that is, again, factual, is information maybe not out there, but we do have been led to believe that it's allegations of domestic abuse, domestic violence. For context, Love joined the Capitals in June 2023 after a strong run in the AHL, where he had been tipped for future head coaching jobs. Not only does that seem like it's going to be completely hit, the Capitals are facing coaching shakeups mid-season already. I mean, if a coach is dismissed because of ice conduct, but the team is performing continues as normal, does it really matter to you as a fan, I guess, is the question. I mean, yeah, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, listen, this is a story that's going to be not dodgy, but a difficult one for most people to talk about, with it being those particular types of allegations. If it's those types of allegations, we've seen it before, not just with this, but with many types of allegations, that teams just want to get away and step away from anyone with this type of history.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the fact that they made a response, they had a quick response, and they did what they did. I think that is their indication that, obviously that the Love doesn't fit within the two things. One, he doesn't fit within the I suppose the what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't fit within the ethos and culture, the values and culture of the organization. But also the fact, like, what do you do? I mean, it sounds harsh as well, but also, why would you be paying the money to have someone who can't partake in league play for a full season? Why would you sit there and pay that money? No. Sometimes it may be just cheaper to kind of cut ties and move on, especially whenever it brings such big, headlines to your club, unwanted attention that maybe you don't want. But yeah, I think they've made the right decision in this point.
And is it? Am I right in saying at the moment it's still under investigation? These are still.
I believe legal. Yeah, I believe they're allegations legal wise. I think there's obviously the NHL have conducted their investigation and have made their decision based on their investigation. But whether or not there's police involvement in legal aspects of stuff, that's probably something else that's out there and for them to kind of look at. Yeah. And there you go. Anthony just confirming, if you get suspended for conduct detrimental to the league, believe the contract allows firing with clause. There you go. Kind of thought that was probably the likelihood. Let's move on from that story to let's finish off with the NHL stories first. We'll move over to another story that hit the headlines this week, and that was an unfortunate one. If anybody was watching the game this past week, the Penguins game versus the St. Louis Blues at the Paints Arena, there was a bit of a delay in the game throughout the play because of a incident that happened in the arena. Unfortunately, an adult male fell from the upper concourse down into the lower bowl. So if you imagine the size of the arenas in the, I mean, Aaron, you've been to them. We've both been to the arenas in the NHL. They are massive. So if you imagine the top aspect, the top level, third level, down to that lower bowl end. The team confirmed the incident in a statement, saying the fan was immediately attended to by Pittsburgh EMS as well as PPG Paints Arena personnel and has since been transported to a local hospital facility. Witnesses reported it happened just after the goal early in the first period in the 200 level stairway area between sections. The fan apparently missed a few steps, tumbled, went over the railing and into the levels below. He struck another fan in a suite level on the way down, and the person was treated on site and refused hospital transport. Penguins statement added, although there is no further information at this time, the Penguins and OVG management group are closely monitoring the situation. Our concerns remain with individual and his family at this time. And from the team side, Captain Sidney Crosby said, after the game, we just found out someone fell tonight. Doesn't feel right talking about points. Let's move on. I think he done the right thing there. As a fan, if you hear a supporter has suffered a serious incident, we've seen it in previous, we've seen things like these happened. But this is an instance of safety. This isn't. I feel like this is in some ways a bit of a conversation about safety. And we've been to arenas ourselves, and we know sometimes when you get to arenas who have like steep inclines and it kind of curves. And the one I kind of always stand out, and I always get a bit nervous whenever I'm up top, is in Nottingham in the Motorpoint Arena, when you're up in the topper levels of that tier, and even if you're standing up in the playoffs, there's just a bit of like an uneasy feeling when you're standing there and you're jumping or you're cheering. I mean, this is awful, but yeah.
When I was reading that story, Nottingham, but also, as you say, we've been to a few NHL games. So either we were, I wouldn't say the cheap seats in Vegas, but I've done the cheap. I can't talk. The cheap seats.
cheap seats, yeah.
right at the top in Boston a few times, and you are like, one, it's steep, and two, it's narrow. Like that, you're really like this, and so there is a really, if you misstepped, we're not going to say whether they had any drinks or anything. It doesn't really matter. If you misstep going down, there's a significant risk of falling. It's interesting that I always felt like that when you were at those games. This is only the one time, right? I've never heard of anyone else.
I haven't, but I'm sure it potentially has happened previously. I know, like, probably older days and older rinks, I'm sure the safety aspect wasn't as stringent as it is now. And you would think, obviously, these modern day arenas, I mean, they do try their best to kind of put in as much safety aspects as they can. Obviously the barriers up, bars across wherever they can in some ways. But when you look at tiered sport and like the way it is, like, it's not always possible. And yeah, as you say, like, it's not something you hear very often. But I suppose the question then does come of even if this was a freak accident, which is unusual and doesn't happen very often, what is it that the facilities owners for this rink need to think about considering doing in order to make sure that it doesn't happen again? Is there something they need to do?
That's really hard to say without actually seeing the exact place that it happened. Like I know I'm talking about Boston, but I know that there are big barriers there. So it feels like that because of, as you say, you're hanging over the edge. The ice is really far down. Everyone looks like ants, right? So
it
does give you that feeling, but without seeing exactly where that person's fallen, like, it's really hard to say. That maybe there is real, and it's just the speed that the poor gentleman fell and did topple over. Like, the only way that we could completely safeguard it would be to put perspex or something like that.
Yeah, which obviously
that's not going to happen.
No, small bits of. I know in some arenas they have the small kind of bits of glass that goes around part of the like part of the kind of the barrier part that kind of is the bottom end of the tier. I know there's a few of those because I remember seeing I watched a video recently of a guy who was banging part of that glass as part of, like, getting a bit animated, and then whenever he hit it, he smashed the whole thing, and then he just kind of turned and went, oops, and I think he got in trouble for it. But I mean, as you said, it's hard to know without seeing the kind of setup. But the one thing we'd always obviously taken away from the story is we hope that the gentleman who had to fall makes a speedy recovery and is hopefully back in the arena for a game in the future.
The one thing I would say is, I think, listen, a couple of guys talking about it on a podcast is one thing, but I would suspect that people that work there at the moment are doing quite a thorough investigation, because it's out there in the news, it's out there in the media. Obviously in America, there's insurance, there's all that kind of lawsuits. So there's going to be quite a thorough investigation on that and what they need to do to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah. Okay. Next story.
Anyway.
Sorry?
You can assume that they would be doing it anyway.
Assume, exactly. Next story we have is just a quick one. It was announced today. Announced this week, not today. It was announced this week. If you haven't done so already and you want to, you can mark your calendar for the weekend of the 5th to 7th of 2027. Yes, 2027. The UBS Arena on Long Island will play host to the 2027 Honda NHL All-Star Weekend. That means New York Islanders' home arena is getting the spotlight for one of hockey's mid-season marquee events. What is there anything interesting about this? This wasn't always the plan. Originally, the All-Star Weekend was slated for 2026, but the league decided to pause the normal format for the 2026 Winter Olympics because we know a lot of the NHL stars are heading to the Olympics, which ties in nicely with our next story. Instead of the All-Star game this year, they shifted to something different. They're calling it a send-off style event, and that too got cancelled. All of that means Long Island gets the full All-Star event in 2027 instead. The one thing about the NHL, the one thing about the All-Star weekend, Aaron, I suppose, it's cancelled for the season, obviously, because of the Olympics coming up in 2026. So it's been cancelled. Yep. Obviously, we've been hearing a lot of people over the years, and I suppose I'm included in that. The All-Star weekend just doesn't have the same draw about it anymore. It doesn't have the same oomph. And I mean,
why do you think that is?
That was my question to you. I genuinely, I don't know. I just feel like it became kind of a thing where, like, I know the players get to kind of have a bit of a time off, if you know what I mean. Like, the players go to it and some players opt not to go to it or whatever. And they get to go and they have a bit of fun, and it's all to do with like the competition style, and they have like the fastest skate and all that kind of stuff. But it's meaningless, and it just takes time, I think.
But so here's a question: Is it not pulling the same draw anymore for you, or do you know that it's definitely not pulling the draw anymore? Like, are there still people going to it? Is it still getting the viewings?
I think in general, I think the overall viewings were down this past year, definitely in 2025. The 2025 one, I think the viewership in general was down for the competition itself. I think there's still the same number of people attending in person to it, because obviously it's still a spectacle. You get to go along, it's a bit of fun. You get to see some of the big stars come together in one place, and it's West versus East, and there's all these little bits and pieces to it, and so people still enjoy aspects of that, and you still have fans who'll do it. But I do think there's been a lot of, especially with players, and the fact that we've had a number of key significant players opting out of the All-Star weekend in the last two years or so, citing reasons like just wanting to take a break, don't feel that it's something they want to go to, and they're within their rights to do that, and they don't have to attend it. And I think when you've got things like that happening, it kind of maybe dilutes it a bit. And I think that the fact that they've went, right, well, we're going to take a break anyway because of the Olympics this year, and they've used that as a good enough excuse to take a break and pause the All-Star weekend for this year. So it will be interesting to see, do they refresh it?
Refresh it? Yeah, that's an interesting
one.
Then
the question is, how do they refresh it to make it feel like a way of like it's still something new and meaningful? Because I think it's very, very tough to do now. I genuinely think it's one of those kind of competitions that's kind of a struggle. But again, as you say, maybe I'm in the minority of people who just I'm not interested anymore. But I just feel like from even just seeing things online and people's responses and that type of thing, I feel like it's just kind of not run its day, but I definitely think there's a vibe that is kind of maybe not as
I always enjoyed watching highlights.
I just go ahead. Just want to put up there. Ovi was he's one of the ones I was talking about. One of the key Ovechkin was one of the key players who decided to opt out of the weekend, and he did get a game ban for skipping it. Yeah, he got a ban. But so I think
here's the thing. So the year that Ovi skipped it, was that a significant year for Washington? Not saying that every year isn't a significant year, right? But was it a significant year for Washington, and it would have potentially given them particular more risk and stop the flow, I say risk for injury, and then stop hindered their chances of winning?
I don't think so. Not that it rings a bell. I think, and Anthony's on there, so he has a Washington Capitals fan, so he can keep his right. I think Ovi at the time cited was it just maybe just like a break from what had been a very busy period in the NHL up to that point. Over that winter, over that winter kind of Christmas period and stuff. And I think maybe that's probably possible. Part of it. I don't know if it was around the same time I don't think it was around the same time as the last Olympics, because I know in the last Olympics he opted to kind of still go and represent Team Russian, whatever it was. I can't remember. And I think his reason for it skipping was, I think, did he rest? Was it rest up for the second part of the second half of the season? I really just think it was just that his excuse was he has to listen to his body, or it was taking his toll. It was a busy game. Yeah.
Reasoning.
So I think that was it. I think it was just heavy minutes, wear and tear, and I think it was just that his reasoning was like, while I see what you're trying to do with the All-Star weekend, I feel like my health and my ability to kind of go into the second half of the season is more important. And that was 2000.
Especially a player like Ovi.
I want to say 2019.
When did they win? When did they win it? Was it 19 or 17?
The Stanley Cup?
Yeah.
Yes. 18 going into 19, was it? Was it the year, the mental year of him jumping around in the fountains? Is that 18? Why ask me such difficult questions?
Sorry. I was just wondering, like, it was a significant year that they were working towards it. He knew that he needed that rest to keep the energy going, which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And essentially the reason why you're saying not to do it as well, because it's kind of pointless. It takes away from the league. It does create potentially more risk. So
yeah,
why not
100%. And I do know that he I know that 2019, well, I'm saying 2019, I'm sounds correct, it is 2019, but that last one, the most recent one where he wasn't there, I think that was Ovi's second time where he didn't go to the All-Star weekend. But I think that the previous time to that All-Star weekend was that he was serving a suspension, a multi-game suspension, and I think at the time he was put onto the All-Star team during his suspension, and I think he just said, look, I'm not going, my heart's not in it, and also I don't think it's right that I'm suspended and I'm going to this. So I think that was maybe the other reason why he wasn't there at that point. But again, I think that's possibly, I mean, that was early day Ovies. I think it was an early day Ovi. I think it was maybe like early 2010s. But yeah, there you go. It's 2027. Mark it in your calendar. New York.
I told you earlier, I got that particular article confused me multiple times because I kept reading it as, we're going to do an All-Star game, but we're not going to do an All-Star game. And I kept missing the actual year that they were talking about, because I wasn't expecting to be talking about 2027.
Yeah, 2027. There you go. Story before we move back to UK hockey, international UK hockey, I should say. The Olympic Committee, Olympic Ice for the upcoming Olympics in Milan Cortina, 2026 Winter Olympics, because we were just talking about the Winter Olympics, is a concern at the moment ongoing. As of today, I know there was a post put out, and I know NHL have commented on this previously, but the notice put out, I think there's only like just over 100 and something days to the start of the 2026 Winter Olympics, and as such, one of the last venues to be completed, which they're concerned about, is the Olympic ice rink, the main ice hockey arena for the 2026, I keep going to say 2026-2027 Olympics, that's not what I'm trying to say, the 2026 Olympics. They are still in the construction phase, which has lasted the last 2 years. It was supposed to have been completed a lot earlier. The arena has been designed to seat around 16,000 people. And the big concern is that the arena and the host venue will not have been tested correctly ahead of the games, meaning it could open untested, something that worries players and the NHL itself, because obviously they're letting their NHL players head off to the Olympics for the first time in a long while. Bettman had made a statement. Gary Bettman, the commissioner for the NHL, did come out and emphasize that while the NHL is invited to the Olympics, it is still monitoring. We're invited guests. They know our concerns, and we're expecting that they're going to make good on all the promises they have about facilities. And so the big concern at the moment is, will there be chances to, I suppose, have that construction completed, and will it be tested correctly in order for safety issues? My guess is that they're making a story out of something that's not going to be a massive issue. I feel like, okay, they're saying, the Olympic Committee are saying, look, we're well underway with it. We believe that we'll have we'll have a few weeks. We'll have at least 3 weeks before the Olympics start to do a dry test run. And I think the first test run is the women's hockey are going to be playing in the arena first, a few days before the Olympics are due to officially kick off. Now, is there going to be testing happening before those games? They haven't officially said, but the Olympic Committee today, as of the 30th of October, have stated that they aren't as concerned about the overall finishing touches to the Olympic ice rink as the NHL maybe are putting out there. If you're going to watch the NHL players playing for their country at the Olympics and you heard the main arena might not be properly tested beforehand, I think, would you believe that there's probably a legit concern there from obviously NHL owners, NHL teams, and also obviously the owners of the NHL or the commissioners of the NHL?
I think it's telling that they're saying that they've been concerned for a number of years. They said several years, and I think 2 years that they said we have had concern for the last 2 years on the progress of the rink. So this isn't just all of a sudden that they're all of a sudden concerned. They've been monitoring it. So either there is legitimate concern because they think it hasn't progressed as quick as it should, or they're just, because they've been worried so much, they're over worrying themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
if they've already had concern for so long that it's just like, oh no, here's another thing to throw to rock the boat.
Yeah,
but go for it.
I again, I do feel like it's a bit of a story that, in some ways, when I read the story, I was kind of like, is it a non-story? But then the more I was reading it, was like, no, I suppose is there a legitimate concern? From for
is
this
it,
far,
are they worried about the ice itself failing? Well, like what's not being tested here? What are we talking about?
Well, if you think about everything that goes part and parcel of an ice rink for player safety, so we're talking, yes, the ice is one thing. Is the ice hold up? Is the ice going to be suitable playing surface? Blah blah blah, all that kind of thing. You think that would be maybe one of the things that's going to be easy to make sure that it's complies with. But what we're talking about here is the curvature of the boards, the curvature of the panels around the boards, the plexiglass that's been installed. Is the plexiglass installed correctly and safely enough that if it takes a large hit, against the board, will the glass fall apart? We're talking those kind of safety risks and safety issues. Have all the bolts and stuff been correctly added to the big doors, where the Zamboni comes in, all those types of bits and pieces I think we're probably looking at here in terms of from a player safety point of view. All those modern safety facility type stuff, benches and all that kind of thing, bench doors, penalty boxes and the entrances and exits of the penalty boxes, as well as the dividers between them,
and all that type of stuff,
all
as well.
those things. I think we're talking a bigger picture here. And also from a fan point of view, in terms of just spectators and crowds, is that going to be well managed? Is it safe? Is it, all that type of thing? So, we'll see.
We're not. None of us are heading over to Milan, right?
No, Milan or Cortina. No. Unless they were to hold the Winter Olympics in the UK sometime in the future. I don't think we'll be going to any Winter Olympics anytime soon, or at least I know I won't be anyway.
Found that new rink that they're building in Dublin one day.
Yeah. Speaking of IIHF Olympic qualifying and blah blah blah, we are looking at last podcast we talked about, and the podcast actually before, we did talk about the new European Cup of Nations tournament, which the IIHF have announced as part of a growth building exercise to encourage kind of more, I suppose, ground level development of teams, European teams, to make them more competitive when it comes to Olympic qualifying. Team GB is one of those teams that are looking ahead at the next Olympic qualifying, 2030 Olympic qualifying, and that'll start off with the World Championship cycle, which happens here 2026, and that'll be taking place later in the year, which is probably around about April, May time. But as part of that, Great Britain have announced their squad that will participate in the first of the Cup of Nations tournaments, which will be taking place this time in Poland from the 6th to the 8th of November, where they will be facing hosts Poland, Italy, and Slovenia. The roster includes notable number of fresh faces. Several players are receiving their first ever senior call-up. That includes netminder Rennie Marr, defenseman Kyle Beattie, Chris Inglis, Reese Kelly, Liam Steele, and forwards Mason Alderson, Bailey Harwood, Jack Hopkins, Patrick Larkin, Sam Lynn, Jonathan McBean, Kyle Watson. The message from Ice Hockey UK stresses this is a blend of experienced players and young talent, and the intention is for them to develop the next wave of GB players. One of the big things I suppose that we need to take into consideration for this is that the games will be taking place between the 6th and 8th of November fall right slap bang in the middle of the Elite League campaign. And I'm not saying the reason why we're getting so many young players is because of the fact that the Elite League is still ongoing, but that is probably one of the big significant reasons why we're not seeing the traditional experienced numbers of caps players that we usually would see in Team GB. But Aaron, I suppose this is a positive thing when you hear that a national team have brought in so many new players and so many young players. I mean, we may not be seeing massive wins on the board, and I'm not being, but you may not see massive wins on the board, but this is very big and a big step for development for future Team GB.
Yeah, look, we've talked about the development of ice hockey in the UK quite a bit on this podcast, and yeah, okay, there is significant risk here. Risk being the right word, but we might not see huge wins here. But this is development for them, for that young team. But it's not all young team. There is some core players there as well. Comes some core experienced players that will hopefully lead the younger players into some wins. So yeah, okay, we might not get a huge amount of wins here, but it's the experience in building up a larger, stronger team for future campaigns.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, as you say, you do have some well-known names in there. I mean, you've got the likes of Sean Norris, Cole Shudra. You've got a couple of others that are also taking part in this. But yeah, no, great to see that you have this going on. I mean, it's I mean, I'm just sorry, I got spotted there a little. I'll just see Anthony's comment there. It's amazing it's hockey's version of the Nations League blends in some guys who should have gotten a look sooner. I agree. Alderson, BD, more time for Brown and Norris should be celebrated. I would agree with you there. And I think we're in agreement with you, Anthony. I think this is a great start for those players and to develop I think Dave was the one who put the story into our WhatsApp group a few days ago whenever it was announced. And I think Dave's comment in our WhatsApp group was fresh generation, I think, or he said something like fresh generation, or looking forward to the next generation of Team GB. And I think he's 100% right there.
And we could be wrong. I know we're saying, listen, maybe we're just trying to temper our own expectations here, because it's really easy to get super excited when you've got fresh blood and this new generation of the players to go, right, we're going to hit the ground running and it's going to be amazing. And it could be. But we're also just tempering, and I hope we want them to be the best, but we're just tempering our expectations as well, I guess.
Let me go back and rephrase and apologize. I said it was Dave, and actually it was John. John was the one who put the link in and said, "Cracker." His exact comment was, "Cracker young team for the competition. GB coaches realizing it's time for the next generation, especially in nets. Nice to see BD in there too." So that was John's comment. So apologies for giving it over to Dave. And it was
actually John. Were you worried that John was going to start shouting at you?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
he's going to do a TikTok just slagging you off all day.
Pretty much. Yeah, exactly. Aaron, that is it for period 2. I don't have any more stories.
Look at that. Okay. Well, let's go on to period 3 of hockey.
All right. Period 3 is our last period. It's our general Knocky
News. Look at that. We can do it when it's just the two of us.
Knocky News is a roundup of just stories that kind of don't really fit within the first 2 periods. And let's be honest, majority of the time now, we are thinking about just renaming this period to the jersey, because it seems to be how we end this podcast. but people seem to enjoy it. One of the things we keep getting asked and we keep getting sent is people on social media keep sending us links to jerseys that they don't know if we've seen before, which is really nice. So yes, thank you for doing that, and keep sending them in. If you see anything you think we should be talking about, please let us know, and send them our way so we can review them. I'm going to start off with one story before we move on to our jerseys and finish off with jerseys for this period. And this is a story coming out of it's a heartwarming story of Brad Marchand from the Florida Panthers. We talked about him earlier on. Brad Marchand is probably one of the players that is probably the most well known for being quite feisty, quite rough and ready, ready to drop the gloves and have a bit of a tumble. But this is a nice story, which is coming out of his support for a friend of his back home in Canada. Florida Panthers forward Brad Marchand was not with the team, choosing instead to return to his hometown of Halifax, Nova Scotia, to help his community heal from a recent tragedy. The story is that Brad Marchand, basically, the backstory is that his long-term friend and junior hockey coach, JP McCullum, lost his 10-year-old daughter, Sella, to cancer recently. Marchand co-owns the local under-18s team, the March and Mill Company Hunters, that McCullum coaches. So Marchand stepped in behind the bench for a game to help raise funds for the family. He missed the Panthers game on October 28th to do this, and he's expected to return for their next fixtures. What makes this worthy of talking about on the podcast is that it just shows his human side of a pro sportsman. Marchand willing to step up off the big stage to honor his friendship and his community and support the community that he's from. It reminds us that the players' lives are about more than just goals and assists. They're embedded in the real world relationships, and they've got friends that they kind of care and think about. And for the Panthers, it's a short disruption, but it speaks for the culture of the team to allow its players to have priorities and to let them step away for something so important as this. And I suppose the question is, if a star player voluntarily takes time away from his team to support a friend in crisis, I mean, how, especially when they've got a player like Brad Marchand, like how does that change how you see him as a player and as a person if you kind of had this one image of him the whole time?
Yeah, as you see him being a hard, feisty player, but this showing a softer side. Listen, this is where the story originates from tragedy and hurt. There is positives here, and as you say, it's amazing to see the players like that take a step back and help the community, especially their friends and the family that are hurting, right?
Yeah.
And raise money for a really good cause. So he's not going to have done it for this. Like, I know you're saying, how does it make you feel about him as a player? Yes, it shines him. It shines a really good light on him. It's really good marketing. He's not going to have done it for that. He's going to have done it just for his friend, just for his community, and just because it's a very, very good cause.
Yeah, I agree. And as you say, like, you know, people out there who probably think when they see that name and they think Brad and they think, well, you know, they kind of almost think of him as a rink rat, and they kind of have their opinions of what he is as a player. Love him or hate him, is one of those players. He's quite divisive. Yeah. And he is definitely one of those players that a lot of people will kind of, like, as I say, love or hate. But this is a true showing of him as a person and who he is outside of that almost caricature of himself as he plays on the ice. And we all know players kind of have this kind of facade as who they are when they're on the ice, and this shows just a nice warmer side of him. As you mentioned, one thing we can't take away from this is it was a charity event, and as of, I think, yesterday, the fundraising page is still active, and so far they had raised just short of 100,000 Canadian dollars, and that is a massive. So yeah, the top donor, not that he needs to be mentioned, but the top donor at the time was Colorado Avalanche captain Nathan MacKinnon, but he also added to the pot as well. Great story, and I just thought we should end our podcast stories wise with that nice heartwarming story there. But Aaron, let's finish off our podcast as we have been doing traditionally, and let's take a look at some jerseys. Now, let's start off with
one. Have to come up with your fancy graphics and your fancy audio. You're going to have to come up with a really like a little jingle, a nice little tune. You done that for? Remember we done ABC of Hockeys?
Yeah. Okay.
You had a nice wee jingle for ABC of Hockeys. You're going to have to come up with a nice wee jingle and an intro for jersey reviews.
Okay, I'm writing it down. I've got a nice
And a fancy
yellow...
name for jersey reviews. What are we going to call it?
Don't know. We'll have a look. We'll put it to the guys and we'll see. Okay.
Put it out on Twitter.
Noted. So nice. Noted. I'll have a look and see. Let's take a look at the jerseys. The first one we're going to look at. It's interesting, this first one, because we are split 50-50 on this. We both made a TikTok video on this jersey, but we haven't reviewed it on the podcast. Let's take a look at that. And that is the why is that going? That is the Belfast Giants recent Hawaiian themed night, which is this past weekend. This is the Hawaiian jerseys that the Belfast Giants were rocking on the night. For anybody who's not watching the podcast, the jerseys themselves were the traditional teal jersey with Hawaiian style yellow, white, green flowers and palm tree designs over the jersey itself. I put a TikTok video out on this. I am literally there's 4 of us on the podcast and we were split 50-50 on this. Half of us liked the jersey and half of us completely just like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this jersey?
I don't think that the two that liked it, I don't think we liked it. We loved it. Yes. Like I loved it so much that I went out and I done a combat TikTok to your TikTok to say I'm all for it.
You did. You and Dave were in the like camp, and me and John are in the detest camp, shall we say? My main issue with it is, now, bear with me. The jersey. I have said before, and I don't want to sound like I'm being I don't want to sound like I'm kind of going back on things I've said previously, but what I like when you have a theme and they go all in on a theme. Okay, I'm not going to take that away from them. They had a theme, they went all in the theme. You can tell it's Hawaiian. Great. My main issue is why.
But hold on, but all the logos are white. Isn't that one of your things? You hear it when a jersey.
That's John's thing.
That's John's thing. Ah, damn. Okay.
It's John's thing.
What do you mean why? No. Why not?
So they had the cowboy night previously in the previous 2 seasons, right? And they did a cowboy themed jersey. That made sense because we had a player whose father was effectively a cowboy. They were quite, Southern, and he wore Stetsons, and it was quite interesting. And that was one of the reasons why we did it, is for that one player, right? And that made sense. We've had obviously the Chinese New Year jersey. That made sense because we're doing a theme of Chinese New Year because of the Chinese Society in Northern Ireland. We're doing a big thing and we're supporting them. That makes sense. What's the link with Hawaii? I just don't get it. It's just so random. I don't get it.
Is it because there was a new Lilo and Stitch movie? Is that too weak of a link? Probably. I don't have an answer for that. If anyone does know why it was Hawaiian, I have to admit I didn't even think of the why. I just saw those jerseys and were like, yes, they are cool. I really like them. I do. I am one of those sad guys that has a number of Hawaiian shirts and do wear them during the summer when I'm having a barbecue and stuff like that. I know it's sad, but I love it. Yeah. So as soon as I saw them, go for it.
David's same as you. He's a big Hawaiian fan, and he did try to win a jersey. I think he went down to try and maybe see about trying to buy one. I think he wanted one to take away with him to Nashville, because he's like,
yeah,
if you want to start a conversation about a jersey, go with this one. Both Belfast, Stena Belfast Giants, and also the fact it's Hawaiian. It's got to draw attention.
You know what I would love to have seen? For him to win that, for him to go to Nashville, right? After a few drinks, let's just say, and someone to turn around and ask him the same question that you just asked me. Why?
Why?
and to see what reason Dave would have come up with. Like because Dave will come up with a reason. He will find that connection. Whether it's real, he'll find a connection and tell a story.
So the Giants obviously opted for Hawaiian theme rather than Halloween theme. They didn't go with a Halloween jersey this season for whatever reason. They normally historically went for Halloween jerseys. They didn't go for one this season. We had a Halloween game last night and there was no jersey for it, and they're away this coming weekend, so there won't be any Halloween reasons this weekend. So the only other Halloween jersey we've had so far since our last podcast to talk about is the next one, and that is the Manchester Storm jersey.
So that previous Hawaiian jersey that was only you can only win it? I can't go buy that. Then?
No, you can. You can go buy it. You can buy it. There's replicas too. Dave went to try and buy it. Sorry, I should have finished off the story. Dave did try to go buy a replica first.
A replica, right?
They were all sold out. And then he went. He tried shirt off the back, and he didn't win shirt off back either.
So before we move on, right? This jersey. Oh no, it's Marta. It's John that says it. I don't understand why John doesn't like this. Then
why?
Yeah, because it's clean. The sponsors aren't massive in your face. Yeah. They're not. They're white. They're not like glaring when they're same colors. It's keeping in theme.
Yeah, but John hates fun.
There we go. Okay, cool.
Yeah, if we look at the other themed jerseys we've had in the past, if we look at Oktoberfest, which sometimes doesn't happen in October. Sorry, Anthony. He hates Oktoberfest jerseys. He didn't like the Cowboy Night jerseys either. Yeah, so he doesn't like these themed he doesn't like these themed jerseys, and he's a bit on the fence when it comes to Halloween jerseys. I know that because I know from watching his videos and stuff, he's a bit on the fence when it comes to those types of things. But yeah, so I think one of the reasons why is because he just doesn't like it.
He doesn't like themed jerseys.
Anthony says he doesn't like it because it's ugly.
Well, it's ugly.
I would agree with you. Let's move on to, as I said, the Halloween. I did give a bit of a sneak peek for anybody watching the podcast. The next jersey we're looking at is the Manchester Storm's Halloween jersey, which they're wearing this coming weekend. Manchester Storm have opted for a traditional purple style jersey with quite lime green, kind of lime green accents as part of it. The logo, I suppose that's where I should start with. I'm going to start with why I don't like it. Okay. And it sounds like I'm just being really negative again, but I am not a fan of this jersey. And the main reason I'm not a fan for this jersey, I like it when teams go full in on Halloween. And I've said it on a previous video. I like it whenever you do a Halloween jersey and you can tell that it's a Halloween jersey and you can tell that this is a Halloween jersey. My main issue is that I don't like it whenever then they opt to then almost take away their identity completely from the jersey itself. So if I looked at this jersey, apart from the tiny bit of lightning in the background behind the skeleton, the skeleton head, I don't know who this team is. That's my take on it. I don't know who this team is. I cannot tell. Like if I was seeing these guys for the first time, I'd be like, who are these? Who is this team? I cannot tell. This is Manchester. Where's their branding? Yeah. There's nothing. I can tell that this is Manchester, and that's my main issue.
I would agree with that. To be fair, I have to admit, I said I really hated it on the text messages because John said he really liked it. That was the main reason at the start. I think they could have gone with the skull and a bit better because they do have, of course, their logo has that. Is it a hockey mask? What is the normal center of the Manchester Storm?
It's kind of like it's kind of like a hockey mask. Yeah, mutated. That's a good point. Yeah, what is their what is their normal symbol? I know I can see it and I know what it looks like. I just don't know what it's supposed to be. Yeah,
but if they try to make an alternate version that is still similar to that is literally they've just got rid of that head and put in a skull with mummy wrapping. If they tried to use the original logo with mummy wrapping or something like that, it would have been closer to it. I do think the design. Go for it.
Sorry, go ahead. You do like the design?
I do like the design in the background and stuff like that. I do think that if they had done what you're talking about there and made their own logo more like the Manchester Storm, that would have been a superb jersey. I'll give John that. I think that it's a funky jersey behind it with the coloring in the lime green and purple. It's really traditional Halloween colors.
I think I would agree with you. I would like it if it wasn't for those negatives. I think I would like this jersey. I think it's a really nice kind of attempt at Halloween. I do think that. Yep. I think. a lot of the teams now use like what do they call it now? Where they use like a font style brand now, where they have so Belfast have one that looks like an arch, it looks like the top of the dome of the SSE Arena, and then Cardiff have their branding as well. I can't remember what they call the brand mark, the writing part. Even if they had something like that where they could have put Manchester Storm somewhere on it.
Somewhere.
Something.
Yeah.
It would have been nice. But yeah, just not for me, just for those reasons. Moving on, that was our last Halloween jersey. The only other thing that was put out that was autumn themed or around this season type part is the Guildford Flame, or not Guildford Flames, Coventry Blaze. I just seen Flames there and I was like, and Ignite, and I was like, Guildford Flames. Coventry Blaze have put out a jersey for specifically for Bonfire Night, which occurs on the 5th of November. Remember the 5th of November. We don't have Bonfire Night in Northern Ireland, so it's kind of hard to know. So Bonfire Night, they have a special jersey for Bonfire Night, which looks like this. Thoughts?
I don't like it.
I don't like it.
I don't like it. It's I don't know, and it's interesting because now, fair enough, they didn't change the logo too much, right?
No,
and they're doing exactly what we've just talked about on the previous jersey. Where like, even if they wrote the name on the jersey, it would be okay. I don't like it. I think it looks like cheap word art.
Yeah, you're right. Blaze does look like word art, and the whole thing around the flames looks like clip art. So hopefully these look slightly better in person. I like that they've tried to put in obviously like the nice firework display kind of thing in and around behind the dragon head. But yeah, just no. Just no.
But it's interesting because it keeps coming back to some of the same criticisms. Like, and it is that one I talked about earlier that I thought was you that said it, but we'll give John his credit here. See if the sponsors were whited out in this.
Yep. Yeah.
And they let the colors pop of the fireworks and the flames to really let the bonfire night come through. That would be great. But the fire and the fireworks are kind of hidden behind the sponsors and the colors of the sponsors, where if you took away the colors of the sponsors, they were still there. Let them just be white or like an off navy or an off blue. I think that would be a nicer jersey.
I agree. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Moving on, and I think this is our last jersey for the podcast. I know this one. Sorry, there's two left. There's one. This one is, and I am not 100% sure if we've looked at this one before. I kind of feel like we did, but John is saying that this is something that the Guildford Flames have put out new today or in the last few days. I don't remember I've seen this before. Have you seen this one before? Does this ring a bell for you?
It's similar to one that I think we did see it. I've got to admit, because it was. I'm remembering seeing a picture of it in front of the ice rink itself. I think we all liked it.
I think now I'm thinking about it. That was the one that had like the circular Guildford symbol in the middle and had Guildford Flames around the circle part, and it had a small G, I think, in the middle. It was a different brand style looking in the middle.
Okay.
So actually, these could be newer jerseys that we haven't seen already. Actually, but what's your thoughts on this? Like on these ones,
I like it. I like the color. I like the simplicity of it. Actually, I don't mind the flames at the bottom. It's not in your face. Like it's not trying to be overdo with the flame effect or anything like that. I just think that it's nice with the accent of it's yellow. It's not gold, right? Is it just my screen? Yeah, yellow on the navy, and the accents of the yellow with the flames and the lines at the top, and the sponsors are just there, not in your face. I think it's a great wee jersey.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, it's pretty nice. I think as you said, it's pretty clean. It's lovely looking. There's no mess around that front chest area, and I don't mind the little squiggly fire looking thing at the bottom of the arms and the bottom of the helm.
I'm pretty sure we've had criticisms for their jerseys before with the fire at the bottom being too much or over the top. That's very subtle, and I quite like it.
No, I think it is. I think it's a nice little design. It's a nice little touch. I like them. They're nice. The voice of Guildford Flames, Anthony. He is. Yeah, there you go. He's just put it out there. No, you haven't. It all came out last night as the Flames skated onto the ice. There you go. See,
there we go.
The voice of Guildford Flames telling us that we haven't seen it before. There's just something about them initially. Whenever John had sent them through today, I kind of thought there's something about it. I just thought to myself, this looks familiar in some way. I don't know.
Well,
but yeah,
with
nice.
Anthony being on the call, what's he think about them? Are you going to try to get one, Anthony, or were they a one-off special?
I don't know. It's a good question. We can maybe come back to this. We'll move on to the next one before he goes back. This is the last one, and this is the reason why you said you like the other jersey you hated the other jersey, because John said he liked the other jerseys because he said he hated these jerseys and we like these jerseys. For anybody who isn't watching the podcast, the Friendship 4, NCAA Friendship 4, Belfast Friendship 4 tournament takes place later on in November, the last weekend of November. So it's the Thanksgiving weekend in the States. That is when 4 teams from the NCAA division hockey come to the SSE Arena and play a tournament as part of the NCAA competition, and they play it in Belfast. As part of that, they always design some special Friendship 4 jerseys each year, and this year this is the Friendship 4 jersey offering that the SSE Arena has put out as part of the competition. If you're not watching, what we're looking at is a navy style jersey, mostly body of navy, white arms, navy neck with a slight tail looking tip to the neck, but on the background behind the logo we have a ghosted kind of image of Belfast, not just Belfast. I think it's Northern Ireland in general, so there's different aspects of Northern Ireland. Belfast City Hall, I think Giants Causeway is represented there, and a few other bits and pieces all in the background. Now, Aaron, let's get your thoughts on the jersey. Maybe it's just Belfast. Is it just Belfast stuff?
Maybe it's just Belfast. I think it's just Belfast.
There you go.
Titanic, Belfast City Hall, Albert Clock, SSE, the Big Fish.
Cool. There you go. It's just Belfast. Let's get your thoughts on this.
I like it. Initially? I do. I actually do like it. I still think it's a fairly simple design, even though that it's got that detailed sketch. It's interesting because there was that other jersey that wasn't too long ago that had the Belfast. It was an artist that painted it. Remember?
Yes.
It had all the Northern Ireland. This is not as noisy, as colorful, but it's just the line drawings of Belfast, and I quite like it. I do think with the navy, with the line drawings and the Belfast or the Friendship 4 logo right in the middle, nice and clean. The white edges, the white arms with the sponsorships there. Again, don't mess around with any of the jersey itself. Don't take away from the artwork on the jersey. So I do quite like it. I don't think it's as nice as the last year's jersey.
No, I would agree. No, it's not. It's not. My take on it is, and I said this about the Nottingham one. I think it was Nottingham I talked about earlier in the season, where they put it one. It had or was Glasgow? I can't remember. It was one that we were talking about in one of the last episodes, where we talked about how they were adding in the map and stuff of the city or whatever. They add little bits. Yes. I like it when they do this type of thing. Now, I know 100% this jersey is not played in. No one plays in this jersey. Okay, this is not a jersey that's worn and playing in. This jersey is simply designed for the main reason of marketing, and also to sell jerseys to American tourists who are coming over as part of the NCAA tournament. And this is to make additional money on the night for that type of thing. And I completely get that's what it is. And people, if they're coming over and they're visiting and they see the Belfast stuff, they want to snap it up and they want to buy it. I don't mind these jerseys for what they are, and I don't mind it whenever they add in key aspects. And I think what I like about this one over one that Belfast previously tried to do was Belfast tried to do one, I think, for the COVID-19 thank you jersey type thing. I think it had a Belfast theme on it, and I didn't really like those ones. I do like it. Would I buy it? No, but I do like it, and I like what they're trying to do with it.
That's a valid point. I like it. I'm not sure I'm going to buy it. Although, as I say, if I saw one of the 2024 ones cheap enough, I know we can't put a picture up of it. But it was nice, with it was the navy at the top, the white in the middle, with the skyline at the top. And then there was was it teal at the bottom?
Yeah.
It was quite nice. I thought.
The NCAA tournament is coming up pretty soon, but we will talk about the NCAA tournament later in next month, probably, before it comes to the actual tournament itself. We will discuss it then, and we'll talk about tickets and all that type of thing as well. So we will come back to the Friendship 4 later in the year. With that is the last of our jerseys, and I just want to put this up just for closure. Anthony's saying they look amazing in person, and they will be it'll be on sale, I'm told. So there you go. With that finishes off our podcast for this week. We didn't do too badly, Aaron.
No, we thought it was going to be a half an hour.
Yeah, there you go. We've hit an hour and a half nearly.
you were able to fill in for David and John quite well.
Tried my best. With that, we'll sign off our podcast as we always do, and we'll direct your attention over to our website, door14hockey.com. You can check out this episode and all the previous episodes on our website. For anybody watching, you can see the QR code just here to scan this, and it'll take you over to our website for all of those episodes. If you want to check out this episode, if you want to check out our new videos that we're doing top 10 videos, list videos, we're doing brief history videos. You can check them out on our YouTube channel, which is also on the QR code now above our heads. If you're watching online now and on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe and follow, and hit the bell to be notified for all future episodes and videos whenever they come up. I should note, and I did say this to Aaron off-air before we came on, there will be no new video unfortunately this week. Just a really busy week, and I'm currently trying to work on a brief history of the Coventry Blaze, which is proving pretty difficult to try and source some information and some photos and footage and stuff. So it is a work in progress, and we will get it up as soon as we can. So bear with us. We'll hopefully have something either later in the week or potentially next week. We'll back with our usual videos there. Lastly, you can check out all of our socials on the QR code now that's on our screen, but also you can check out our socials on all the usual channels: TikTok, Facebook, X, Instagram at Door14Hockey. Don't forget to link in with us and send us your stories, whatever it is. We love hearing your comments and you're engaging with us, so always do that when you're on our socials. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to hit your reviews, stars, whatever it is. Leave us a comment, leave us whatever it is on your podcast provider of choice, whatever that might be. We are a traditional podcast, so don't forget to listen to us every fortnight on your podcast provider of choice. You can get that also on your smart speaker by asking to play the latest edition of the Door 14 Hockey podcast. With that, we will sign off for this week. I'm Marty.
I'm Aaron. He's Theo.
Have a great week. Have a great week.